Hi guys, this is Pre-Algebra, lesson 6-3 video, solve equations using the distributive property. In this lesson, we'll be able to use the distributive property to solve equations. Let's look at explain it. 6 friends go jet skiing. The total cost for the adventure is $683.88, including a $12 fee per person to rent flotation vests. Marcella says they can use the equation 6r plus 12 equals 683.88 to find the jet ski rental cost r per person. Julia says they need to use the equation 6 times parentheses r plus 12 equals 683.88. Who do you think is correct? So the $12 fee per person to rent a flotation vest is your safety vest. When you ever fall in the water, it helps you float on the water so that you don't drown. Okay, so Marcella is gonna just add that from 6r to get the total, and but Julia says you have to multiply 6 for the after you add the fee plus 12. Okay, so what does 6 represent? What does 6 represent? 6 friends, right? So you're multiplying 6 because there are 6 people. Do you just multiply 6 for each fee and then just add 12 fee per person, which means you just need one flotation vest? Or do you need 6 of the ticket and then the flotation vest? You need to add first, and that's the total for person, and you multiply that by 6, right? So Julia would be correct. Marcella is incorrect. So part A, this is part A. Whose equation accurately represents the situation? Construct an argument to support your response. Okay. So what would you say? Well, we know that Marcella is incorrect because each flotation vest costs $12 and each friend needs a vest. Her equation only includes the cost of one vest. Julia's equation is correct because she adds the fee and the vest cost together first, then multiplies the cost per person by 6. Let's say the total cost, because the cost per person might just mean, you know, how much you need to ride the boat. Okay, what error? Let's look at part B. What error in thinking might explain the inaccurate equation? What error in thinking? So why do you think she wrote it like that? Well, there could be multiple answers, but she just forgot to put parentheses, right? So you could just say Marcella may not have considered that she needed to include parentheses around r plus 12. And she just wanted to add the 6R and 12, just thinking that they just need to be totaled. And she forgot about thinking, oh, every person actually needs the life vest, right? The floaty. So wait, that's not a highlight. So she might have assumed Marcela didn't know what 12 well, she may have known, but didn't think about what 12 represented in the equation. She probably didn't think that everyone needed a vest. Okay. So she forgot to put these R plus 12. Okay, so focus on math practices. How can you use the correct equation to determine the jet ski rental cost per person? The jet ski. So how would you solve this equation? 6 times parentheses R plus 12 is equal to 683.88. How would you solve that? So first, let's try solving it. Okay, 6 times R plus 12 is equal to 683 point, what was it? 88. Okay, you're gonna use the distributive property. That's your first step. 6R plus 6 times 12, 72. Right? And then that's equal to 683.88. And then what do? Add the like terms. Well, isolate the variable. So first, you want to get rid of the 72, and then you can divide it by 6. So subtract 72 on both sides. And 683.88 minus 72 is 611.88, and you divide it by 6 to get 101.98. Okay, so let's explain this in Word. You can say apply the distributive property to multiply 6 by R and 6 by 12. Next, use the subtraction property of equality to subtract 72 from both sides. Finally, use the division property of equality to divide both sides by 6 and isolate the variable. The jet ski rental cost per person R is 101.98. There you go. Okay, let's look at the next page. So in this lesson, we'll talk about how the distributive property helps you solve problems. Let's look at example 1. Solve equations using the distributive property. Each of the graphic novels in Chen's collection increased in value by $3.5 in the last few years. If each graphic novel has the same value, what was the original value of one graphic novel? So we have the information that 10 graphic novels, total value is $75. Okay, right now. it's a current total value, but it was actually less valuable. It increased in value $3.5 in the last few years. So, how can you write equation in the form P times parentheses X plus Q equals R to relate quantities in the problem? So let's think about what's going on. You can use area model to represent the situation to write an equation. So if you say G is the unknown variable where it represents the original value of the graphic novel, because we don't know that, right? So G is the original value. Right now, it increased $3.5 per novel. And you have 10 graphic novels. So right now, after the increase, the total value is $75. And you can write the equation 10 times parentheses, G plus 3.5 is equal to 75. And so you can solve for G using algebraic equation. So first you need to use distributive property to multiply 10 out. So 10 times G and 10 times 3.5, and you add them together to get 75. And that's gonna be simplified to this. You subtract 35 on both sides so that you can isolate G by dividing 10 after that, and G is 4. So originally, it costs $4 per graphic novel. So total, 10 graphic novels would be worth $40. But it increased the value for 3.5 for the couple of years. And so now total, it's worth $75. Okay, let's look at try question. A collector has a box of 32 figurines. The value of each figurine increased by $2.32 over the past year. Okay, each of them increased. So the box of figurines is now worth $114.24. What was the original cost X of the figure? Okay, in order to answer this question, you need to set up an equation that represents this situation. So he has overall 32 figurines, and each one increased $2.32 per figurine, and X is the cost for each one. So X, whatever the original price was, original cost, right? It increased $2.32, and you have 32 figurines. Okay, so together it is now $114.24 worth. Okay, and so now let's solve this equation step by step. Use the distributive property to distribute 32 out. 32 times X plus 32 times 2.32. And then you simplify that to 32x plus 32 times 2.32 is 74.24. And that's still equal to 114.24. Okay, subtract 74.24 on both sides, and you get 32x plus 0. 114.24 minus 74.24. So divide 32 on both sides. 114.24 minus 74.24 is 40. And divide it by 32, you get 1.25. So the original cost of one figurine was $1.25. Let's look at convince me. Can the equation 32x plus 2.32 equals 114.24 be used to find the original cost of each figurine in the problem above? Explain. Can you use this equation to find each figurine and the cost of each figurine in the problem above? in the triad question. Is it the same? First of all, are the equations the same? Is 32x plus 2.32 equals 114.24 get the same answer for you? No. You can check by subtracting 2.32 on 114.24. And then you can divide it by 32. And that's going to be 3. For this one, you get x is 3.4975. Which one is correct, right? If you check 3.4975 must be multiplied by, so you also have another equation that says 32 times x must be 114. Wait. So if that was the original price, if you add 2.32, because that's how much you increased, that's 5.8175. And if you multiply 5.8175 by 32, we still have 114.24. No, 186.16. So 186.16 is not equal to 114.24. So what's wrong? It's a parenthesis, isn't it? So if we don't have parentheses, that just means you multiply the original cost by 32, and then you add 2.32 to the total. But you need to add 2.32 for each figurines because each figurine increased by this cost. So we didn't add that, right? So let's explain. No, it's not going to be the same. This equation represents that the current value of the figurines is only $2.32 more than the total original cost of 32 figurines, okay? Which doesn't think about the increase in value for each of the figurines, okay? All right, let's look at the next page. Example 2, solve equations by distributing a negative number. What if you have an equation that has a negative number that needs to be distributed? Make sure you include the negative whenever you distribute it out. So -5 times the parentheses, when you distribute it, you need to multiply -5 each time. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to multiply -5 here, and I'm going to multiply +5 here. No, that doesn't work. Okay, -5 needs to be multiplied out for each term. Okay, this is very important. A lot of people make mistakes because they forgot to multiply negative on the second term. And then you're gonna simplify and use the equation properties of equation equality to isolate your variable, and your s is going to be -26 and 3/5. Solve it step by step. Okay. Example 3. Solve equations by distributing a rational number. What if you need to distribute a rational number like fraction? It's the same thing. You just make sure you distribute it out to both terms. And if you have that, you have 1/4 p here and 1/4 times 258. But what is 1/4 in terms of operations? It's the same as dividing it by 4. So if you divide 258 by 4, you get 64.5. And now you do the same thing, subtract 64.5. And what's the opposite operation of 1/4? Multiplying 1/4. You multiply the reciprocal. Okay, 1/4 is like dividing it by 4. So opposite of dividing it by 4 is multiply by 4. So multiply by 4 or 4 over 1, that's the reciprocal on both sides. You get P is equal to 289. The total received from pom-pom sales was $289. So let's see if you can do the try questions by yourself. See if you can do it and come back when you're ready for answers. Okay, pause the video, come back when you're ready for answers. Okay, part A, -2 is distributed out. So it's both rational and a negative number, right? So then you have to multiply -1 over 2 both times. Don't forget to multiply -2 both times, okay? But this is a minus. So you still keep the minus, the subtraction part, but you need to multiply -1 over 2 times 6, okay? Or if that's too confusing for you, you can keep the addition sign, but that 6 becomes negative, okay? So either way, you need to keep the negative sign, all right? So then -1 over 2b is equal to positive 6 divided by 2 is 3, and that's equal to 5. So subtract 3 on both sides, and you get -1 over 2b equals 5 minus 3, 2. Okay? And then the opposite of -1 over 2b. What are you doing to the variable here? You're multiplying -1 over 2. What is the opposite for that? You multiply the same negative but reciprocal, right? So you can multiply 2 over 1, -2 over 1 on both sides to get positive 1b, because that's what you want. You want positive 1b. Negatives cancel out when they are multiplied, so you get b is equal to -4. B is equal to -4 is your answer. Okay, part B. You need to multiply 0.4 out. So 0.4x minus 0.4 times 0.45 is equal to 9.2 is your second step. Okay. And 0.4 times 0.45 is 0.18. So negative 0.18. So you're going to add 9.2 to both sides. Okay. So you get 0.4x is equal to 9.38. Okay. 9.38 divided by 0.4 is 23.45. So you divide by 0.4 on both sides, and your x is equal to 23.45. There you go. The last one, part C. You're distributing -4 out. So -4p minus -4 times 202 equals 44. Notice you can also do plus -4 times -212. Okay, it's gonna be the same thing. So -4p plus 212 times 4 plus 848 is equal to 44. And so you subtract 848 on both sides. Okay. And you get -4p is equal to -804. And so p is equal to -804 divided by -4, which is positive 201. So p is positive 201. There you go. And that's how you use the distributive property to solve each equation. let's summarize our lesson. When solving equations with written in the form P times parentheses X plus Q equals R, where P, Q, and R are numbers, you can use the distributive property to multiply two terms in the parentheses by the term outside the parentheses. And make sure if the term outside the parentheses is negative, you multiply the negative each time. Okay, so that was lesson 6-3, solve an equation using the distributive property. Okay, so now that we learned how to solve equations, in the next lesson, 6-4, we're going to solve inequalities using addition or subtraction. Okay, I'll see you in the next video about inequalities. If you have any more questions, come ask Ms. King in class. Bye.